In this video, we're going to take a look at the Engrampa Archive Manager. Before I begin, let me first describe or define what an Engrampa Archive Manager is, and then we'll use the Engrampa Archive Manager and some examples to help you understand it. Now, this is my website, and for those of you that are watching the video on YouTube, the link will be below the video if you'd like to go to my site and look at additional content about learning Ubuntu MATE and the default programs within it, and eventually I will broaden out and show you how to add additional software that's not part of the default. Alright, getting back to our topic, the Engrampa Archive Manager. The definition of the Engrampa is an archive manager for the MATE environment. An archive manager is an application for managing archive files. For example, .zip or .tar files is designed to be easy use. An archive manager provides all the tools that are necessary for creating, modifying, and extracting archives. Now, for those of you that are coming from the Windows environment and learning Ubuntu MATE or Linux for the first time, you might not feel comfortable using this tool because it doesn't look similar to the tools that you're familiar with in the Windows environment. In the Windows environment, you've probably downloaded tools such as unzip, unrar, unace, 7-zip, or other type of archiving utilities. This one is built into Ubuntu MATE and works just like using the operating system. You can open up the program and it looks very similar to the operating system itself. So let's scroll down and give you a little look on how to use it. Then I'll close the web browser or minimize the web browser and we'll start using it. To access the Archive Manager, which is the Engrampa Archive Manager, you go through the Applications menu to the Accessories, and then you click on the Engrampa Archive Manager. Now let me minimize this. Here's our Applications menu. You go to Accessories, scroll down to where it says the Engrampa Archive Manager. You click onto it. Now for right now, I don't have any files that are zipped up that needs uncompressing. So I'm going to close it just for a moment. I showed you how to access it. On my website, not this website, but in my Google Drive, when I work on a variety of different computers, and you probably notice that a lot of my images, when you look at the videos or scroll down and look at the images on the website, it looks like I'm changing my background and changing my taskbar often. It's because I work on a variety of different computers and I'll take snapshots and I'll upload them into my Google Drive. Let me go to my Google Drive where I've uploaded the files that I'm going to use in this video. Now I'm logging into my drive. As you can see, I have a folder created, the Engrampa Archive Manager. I've screen captured these on another computer to use on this computer where I'm doing the video. I'm going to download all of these files. Notice they're individually in the folder of the Engrampa Archive Manager. Google Drive, it works very similar to the way that if we had files on our computer and wanted to upload them quicker, we would compress them. So we're sending up one file instead of individually uploading, in this case individually downloading the files from our drive. Notice if I right click and choose download, notice instead of downloading all those individually, notice what Google Drive does. It says preparing the download. Notice below that 16 files zipped. It zipped the files up to where it only made one file. It zipped it up. So let me go into my folder where the zip file is, and it's this one, the drive download, because I downloaded it from Google Drive. I'm going to cut it out of my downloads folder and I'm going to put it in the folder I made specifically for this video. It's in my documents folder, and I made the Engrampa Archive Manager just so that I can put this zip file. There's two ways that I can open this zip file. I can double click the zip file. That's one way, and I can see the contents, which are my screenshots of individual pictures that I had on my Google Drive. Another way is by going the way I showed you earlier, to Applications, to Accessories, go down to the Engrampa Archive Manager, and notice it's not there. I have to click the Open button. I can also click Archive Open, which would do the same thing as clicking the Open button. Now these are not the files. This is just showing me very similar to if I open my file manager. This shows me that I can go to the zip file. It's in my documents, it's in the Engrampa Archive Manager, and when I click there, there's the zip file, the compressed file. Those are where all the pictures are in it. Now I can't see them now until I actually open it. If you look in the lower right hand corner, there's an open button. Clicking the button now allows me to see the contents in that zip file. Now I can manipulate and work with the files inside the zip files, and I can save it when I'm finished and still have that one file. So if I wanted to re-upload it, I could. So if I wanted to open this particular file, I could double click it, and notice it took a while, but it opened that file. If I wanted to open this one, it opens up. So I can work with the contents in the zip file very similar that I can work with it if I was to unzip it. But the thing about it is, when I finish, I have to save the changes. If not, it will keep the original file within that zip file. Now let's say that I wanted to extract it. Extract it means to take the files out of the zip file, out of the compressed file, to put it in a folder so that I can have files or images in a folder as if I was to create them on this computer. To extract files, I can select them all, or if I didn't have one highlighted, I could say extract and it would extract all of them. But since I already had the first one highlighted, if I hit extract, it would extract only the highlighted file, or the top file in my case. I hit the extract button, or I can go to archive and extract. They will both do the same thing. So if I hit the extract button, it's then going to take me to a location where I can say to extract to. I want to go back to my documents. I want to go to my Engrampa Archive Manager, and I want to extract them in the same folder where my zip file is. So when I close the Engrampa Archive Manager, I will see the actual images that was in the zip files. When I hit extract, it's now finished extracting the files. It says extraction completed successfully. I can close this little pop-up menu or dialog box, and I can close the program. I have now extracted all of the images that was originally on my Google Drive. This was in my Google Drive. I downloaded it as one file, all of those files as one. Notice it downloaded very quickly. And I downloaded each of these images and I uncompressed them. Now if I wanted to use GIMP or some other image tool, I could open these up, I could crop them, I could write on them, I could do whatever. And if they were Word documents, I could open them up in LibreOffice or another word processor and make changes to them, edit them, and then I could re-upload them, and I could re-zip them back up and upload them or send them as an email, and that way I wouldn't have to load them one at a time. So these are the images that I had on my website that I have compressed, and I simply uncompress them. Now when you've downloaded a zip file or a compressed file and you've uncompressed it, if you no longer need the zip file, because these are the contents that's inside of it, it's almost like ordering something from Amazon and the box comes to your door and you open it up and you take out the contents. The only difference between this and the analogy of Amazon is when I've extracted this, I've taken the contents out, but I've not actually taken it out. If I were to double click this again, you can see the contents are still inside of it. Now wouldn't that be neat to have a magic box from Amazon to open it up and take out the contents and the same thing stays in there? You can have like an endless supply of whatever it is that you ordered. Now unlike that analogy, this still has the contents in it. So if I no longer need this, I can right click, say move to trash, because I no longer need it. I have the contents which was on the inside. I can now manipulate this to do whatever I want to with these images. Alright, let's say I've made the changes to them, and I have a colleague that I work with that I wanted to email all of these files to after I made changes to them. Yes, I could go back and put them on Google Drive and they could download them that way, but let's say I wanted to attach them as an email attachment. That would be a long time opening up, say open, attach screenshot 1, attach screenshot 2. As you can see, that would be time consuming and not very productive. If we're doing this at work, time is money. So if I wanted to send these, I could attach them as one file. I click on one of them. I could click on the first one, the last one, or any of them, and I could select them. I'm holding down the shift key while pressing the arrow keys, and I moved over until I selected them all. To compress the files, I will right click on the selected files, and if you look, it has compress within my menu that popped up. When I select the compress button, it will bring up a dialog box. Now the dialog box by default will name the file as the same thing as the folder the files are in. Since this gives it a good example of what I'm using, I'm not going to change the name. But if this was some random folder like documents, that wouldn't be a clear enough name of the file to tell someone that's receiving this what the files are inside of it. So this would be your opportunity for you to type in the file name. If you look to the right, and this is the important part of this menu, to the right of the file name is where you have a little drop down arrow. And in the drop down area you can look, and there's a variety of different types of compressions that we can choose. .zip is probably the most popular on the internet. It's the most widely used. Now in the Linux world, the tarball, the TAR packages, is very widely used. When you're downloading software, extracting it out, compiling software, a lot of times it's compressed with the tarball or the .tar. Now the .rar, that is used from programs like WinRAR, and a lot of other programs have adopted the compression in it. But by default, the Engrampa Archive Manager will not compress or uncompress the .rar. I do have it in mind, and before the end of this video I can show you how to add it to yours, so that if someone sends you a compressed file that has a .rar, or if you do find a compressed file on the internet, you download it to your computer, you won't get frustrated and think, hey, I have an archive manager, I should be able to uncompress it. This one, like I said, is normally for a separate program, but instead of downloading a separate program, we can put the add-ons. For now, we're going to choose the default, which is the zip extension. Clipping on that keeps the extension. I could change it, or I could go back to the zip file by clicking onto it. The last thing is the location, or next to last thing. I will show you another option here, but we are not going to do the other option. Here we can change the location of it, but since I deleted the zip file, I am going to actually put the zip file in the same folder, so I'm going to leave it in the same folder. If you had a different destination for your zip file, you could hit this, go to your file system, and choose some other location. I'm going to choose where we're at as the location to create the zip file. One other thing, if you're sending something that's important documents, maybe you're sending something to your banker, or maybe you're a teacher and you're sending confidential information to a parent about your student, their child, and that information is confidential. You know, a teacher's email is state property, and that can be seen by anybody that requests it. So if you're sending something to a parent, you can let parents know, maybe give them a sheet at the beginning of the year that have individual passwords for their child that they use to log in. You could put that child's password into this particular password area and say create, and it would compress all of these files by putting a password. That way that parent and that parent alone would be able to open up the information about his or her child, keeping information sent across the internet confidential. Now, for this sake of discussion, we're not going to password protect any of the files that I'm compressing. So I'm going to leave it blank, and I'm going to close that back, and I'm going to choose create. Notice it went through the process, it compressed the files. Now I will highlight all the files one more time to show you something. When I highlight all the files, you can look all of the files that are selected. There's 16 items selected, and all of the files themselves are 2.8 megabytes. 2.8 megabytes. I'm going to only select that one file. That one file there is 2.8 megabytes as well. So in this case, when I compressed it, I didn't actually gain an advantage of freeing up any space. Sometimes you might compress a particular file and it will actually be smaller than the contents of all the files added together. But in this case, it's not the compression ratio that I'm focused on. It's looking at the number of files. Like I said, if I was to open up an email and try to attach all of these individuals, saying attach, 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 that would be time consuming. I can now open up an email saying attach this file, send it, and it will go on its way. Now file size wise, it will still take about the same amount of time, but the open, close, open, close, open, close, that's where it gets time consuming. And if I had a website, instead of saying download each of these files individually, if I just stuck this on my website and say download this link, you could download it and uncompress it the same way that I did. Alright, those are the ways that using the Engrampa Archive Manager by the default settings. Now what I mean by the default settings is, let me go back to it one more time. I'm going to delete this one, Well, actually, I'm going to leave that one because that's the zip extension. I'm going to highlight the other files. And the extra feature that I'm going to show you is not one of the default features, and I don't normally go out of the default range, but I don't want someone to install Ubuntu MATE on their computer and download a file across the internet that has the .rar extension and get frustrated because they can't open the file and think that Ubuntu has a problem. And it's not. It's just the Archive Manager by default will not uncompress the RAR. As you could see earlier in the video, I do have the option of the RAR. Now, the reason I did leave up my website, and I'll close this out for a moment, the reason I do have my website minimized is because on my website, if you scroll down, I have the way that you can add on the add-ons to the Archive Manager to give you that feature. Now, since I've already got it, it will probably, here it is, you scroll down, you're going to add this to your terminal. Now, some of you, when you saw that big dark screen there, it frightened you. You think, oh my goodness, I've never used something in Windows, which is the DOS command. You've never used that because you're familiar with the graphical user interface, the point and click, and you want to use something that's point and click. And Ubuntu MATE, for the most part, is a point and click graphical user interface. However, the power of Linux is through the command line, known as the terminal. We're going to add these add-ons to our Archive Manager by using the terminal. And the terminal is not very scary at all. As you can see, I've placed the terminal on my panel bar. And if yours is not on the panel bar, you go to Applications, you go down to where it says System Tools, and you highlight where it says MATE Terminal. You click on that, and in a moment or two, it will pop up that this is your terminal. It's referred to as the terminal, and here's where you enter your commands and your arguments. Your commands is what you're telling the machine to do. The argument is what the command is going to actually carry out. So as you can see here, you can tell that was on another computer. That's my first name at Ubuntu. I'm on my laptop, so this is my first name at my HP ProBook. So I'm on a separate machine, and that's why I uploaded those images so that I can work with on this particular computer. Now, there's two ways that you can put this into your terminal. I'm going to put it up here at the top. You're going to type in sudo apt install unace rar unrar unar, and I'm not going to read the rest of that. You can actually type that in and press the enter or return key on your keyboard, and then it will carry out that procedure. For those of you that are familiar with copying and pasting, just take your mouse, hold down your left mouse pointer, copy this. When you're finished, let go. It highlights the text. Right click, choose copy, bring your terminal back up, and I'm going to minimize my web page so that you're not looking at two terminals on the same screen. I now have on the clipboard, when I copied it, it put the contents on the clipboard. I right click, I choose paste, and when I press the return key or the enter key, it will prompt me for my password. I don't have to worry about someone on the internet seeing my password, because as I type my password, you're not going to see it, but it will be in there as I type it. I type my password and then I press the enter key, and when I do that, it's reading the package. It will then start to check to see if the packages are available. In my case, it already looked and said that it upgraded nothing. The reason it upgraded nothing is because I've already installed it on my computer. But if I were to remove it, I'd go back through it. It's what you see on my website. Now, to close this, I can type in exit and press the enter key, or I can press the X in the top corner. But since I've already typed exit, I'm going to press the enter key or the return key, and it's going to exit my terminal. Now, if you did what I just did, you put that, paste it in here, you put your password in, and this is why I was on another computer, somewhere where I have never entered this into it before, where I didn't have the RAR. If you scroll back up to the top of my website, you can look here that it's from the zip all the way up to the top. You don't see RAR. You see TAR, but not, you see JAR and TAR, but there's no RAR. So by default, the .rar is not included. So that's the reason I did this, so you can see how to install it, and that's the reason I'm working with the images that are on my website. Here we put our password in at this point in time, like you saw me do. Now, unlike what you saw me do on the actual terminal on this computer started to look and see the files where they're coming from, and it will let me know that, hey, if you want to install this on your computer, after this operation is completed, it will use up 14.8 megabytes of space. And it's saying, are you really wanting to do this? If you are, you press the Y and press the enter key, and then it will start downloading the individual files that it needs to install on your computer. And when it's finished, it starts unpacking and it starts setting up or processing those files, and you'll see a little bar as it's growing across. And when it's completed, you can close it out by typing exit, as I did earlier, or closing the button on the top. Now, as you can see, when I was finished with that computer, I opened it back up and I now have the extension RAR. So that added on the feature to my default. So I'm going to leave the zip package here. I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to choose compress. Now this time, instead of zip, I'm going to leave the same name. I'll leave it the same name as this one. See, leave it in the same folder. I will go to the RAR. I will click it, and I now will say create. It is now going through, and just as with the Engrampa Archive Manager zip file, I have now created myself an Engrampa Archive RAR file. They look very similar. This one just has the zip extension on the box, the way you get an Amazon box and it has the little smiley face on it, or it might have the word Amazon. This one's just a box that's taped up and your files are nicely, safely inside the box. Now you remember, if I take and highlight these, you can see it was 2.8 megabytes, the individual files. When I click the zip file, it was 2.8 megabytes. If I click the RAR file, it is still the 2.8 megabytes. From time to time, depending upon what type files you will, you'll gain advantage by compressing it, freeing up space. But in this case, the advantage is that you're compressing it and you're uploading one file instead of multiple files. So there, as you can see in my little menu box or dialog box earlier, there are several formats that you can compress a file to upload it somewhere on the internet, or to upload it as an attachment to send to somebody. Like if I had a parent, let's say I'm still teaching 6th grade science, and I have a parent that's working, and that working parent needs to sign a document. If I know that parent, or if has a particular program on the computer that allows them to digitally sign it, they could compress it again and password protect it, they could send it back to me, I could open it up, and I could print it out. Then that way it saves that parent time, doesn't have to come to school to meet with me. I don't have to schedule time out. It just makes us more efficient at communicating and get parents to sign documents. So working with computers, working efficiently, and we didn't password protect it. I will password protect one now. Let me delete this one. I'm going to re-zip a file, and I'm going to put a password on it to show you how the password works. I go back to compress. This time I will go to the other option, and I'm going to put a password, and I'll put the password as password, PASSWORD, all lowercase. And that's important to understand. When you're working, all of this is case sensitive, meaning if I put a capital P here and the rest are lowercase letters, unless that person opening this file uses the same format, uppercase and lowercase in the same arrangement, then he or she will not be able to open it, even though they might know the password. So it's more secure that way. If someone knew the password was password and I were to alternate using large characters, small characters, they would not be able to open it unless they knew the arrangement. So sometimes just knowing a password will not allow you to access the file unless you know the case of the letters. In this case, I left them all lower letters. I will say create. It says the archive already exists or is present. Do you want to overwrite it? I will say overwrite. In this case, no, I'm going to change it to zip file. And that way it'll let you know if I've already have a RAR file. It will always prompt you. It will not overwrite something. It will prompt you. So in this case, I deleted the zip file. So I want to compress the zip file that's password protected. I hit create. Alright, now I'm completed. I now have all the zip files inside of that compressed file. I'll delete my picture files. And as you can see, here's my archive manager. If I double click it, I can see them, but watch this. I cannot open them unless I know the password. Now, let me close this out. That way if I had important documents and it was case sensitive or sensitive to where the parent's eyes only, or if it was doctor information, I wouldn't have to worry about wandering eyes getting access to my files. It's very secure. Let's say I go here, I say extract to, and I want to put it into the same folder. Let's say my Engrampa Archive Manager. I say extract, boom. It will not allow me to extract the contents in that file unless I know the password. Let's say I don't know the password. So I type hot dog, H-O-T-D-O-G. I hit OK. It gives me an error. It says the wrong password. But because I am the default owner, I've got it set up to where I bypass that. And notice that it only shows me a thumbnail. It will not allow me to see the actual images. I can only gather a thumbnail. It's because I used the wrong password. It remembers the thumbnails of what they were. That's why it gives me a preview images. If you've never opened it, you won't even see those images. That's kind of like the one you see here. So I couldn't get anything from it. So let me go back and say extract to. I'm going to go to my documents. I'll go to my Engrampa Archive Manager. I'm going to say extract to. This time I'm going to use the right password, which is password. P-A-S-S-W-O-R-D. I'm going to hit OK. And it gives me my thumbnails properly now. You could see the thumbnails while ago, but if you double click, you couldn't see the important sensitive information. But this time if I click onto them, I can now open them as if I needed to. So if this had important information. So you can actually compress a file and password protect it. Now you saw how I uncompressed the zip file. The RAR file works the same way. And I'll delete the zip file here. If I wanted to uncompress the RAR file, I right click, I say extract to, I go to my documents, I go to this folder here, I say extract to here. As you can see, it extracts the same way as the zip file. So in this particular video, and I apologize for being long, we learned how to open a compressed file that you may have downloaded from the internet. We learned how to compress files together and give it an extension such as a zip or another type of extension. We've learned to use our terminal to add the feature so that we can open up the .rar, which is a very popular compression across the internet. Just be aware, if you've installed the RAR, you might get comfortable with compressing it with an RAR and you send it to someone who doesn't have that add-on on their computer. That person may or may not be able to open it. Depends upon if they have a program or if they had an add-on to allow them to open it. Most machines by default will open the compressed format of .zip. So that's how you use the Engrampa Archive Manager. And like I said, I will put the link below to how to access my website. And for those of you that are looking through the website, the video that you're fixing to watch, or you'll see at the bottom, it will be below this location. Hopefully that you've learned something, and good luck to you as you are on your adventure of learning Ubuntu MATE.